All right. So we're looking at positional chess and tactics. So looking at like Paul Morphy, right? Going back to the opera box game, he had a huge lead in development, right? And then that led to tactics. So really anything that's not material or immediate checkmate would be a positional advantage, right? So we're talking about like Jeremy Silman talking about imbalances like superior knight, better pawn structure, things like that. And those things accumulate to give you positional advantages. And then you might get tactics coming out of that. Not always, but at least you'll increase your likelihood that you'll get tactics. So let's take a look at a Capablanca game, one of my favorites. Capablanca versus Trey Ball. I think it was 1929. So I just pulled this one up from Lee Chess. We're also getting it from chessgames.com. Okay. So here we are. And in this case, actually, a huge part of it is a space advantage. So imbalances that I would focus on are one, space advantage, huge squeeze, and two, superior minor piece. Superior, it would be bishop over knight. Bishop over bishop. Way better bishop. Theirs is all pent up, right? Like in its own prison of its pawns. And superior knight, well, their knight is just so squeezed. It doesn't have any outposts. So let's just flip through it. I mean, I've done a video. Actually, I did one in Spanish too on this game. Tribute to Capablanca from Cuba, right? But yeah, I love it. I love his stuff. So elegant. So just to flip through a little bit, how the imbalances were created that led to the superior position. So we have the trade of the dark squared bishops. Really smart idea. Usually black will go knight f6. And interestingly, I kind of was thinking about showing you guys how to handle the queen's gambit today. Well, I suppose this is how not to handle the queen's gambit. But yeah, the Slav defense is a good way, nice and solid, but watch out for that bishop, right? A lot of people like to get it out like a London, like this, but he doesn't. Trey Ball doesn't get that one out. It remains really bad the whole game. And then this bishop gets traded off. Now, keep in mind that that's the would-be bad bishop, right? Let's say you were to play the kind of passive e3. It's playable. It's a thing, but your bishop gets bad, right? So we trade it off. And then, okay, brings the knight, covers the pawn, and you could play e4. Like, no need to sack anything. You could have gone to c3, but it's like, no need. Just keep it clean. And then e3. So you can see, look at what black's doing. Do you guys know what this setup is called? Where you go d5 and f5 against d4 openings?
Is that Stonewall?
Exactly. Stonewall defense. It comes out of a Slav usually. So you start with, you don't show your hand yet, right? You start with, you don't usually play f5 right away. You don't show your hand. You could play a Slav and then f5, or it could be a Queen's Gambit decline without the Slav. That's the Slav c6. And then you'll end up, or like this. And sorry, it would be, or that way. And then you'll end up playing f5 slash c6. So you end up essentially transposing. So now you can see there's a grip on the light squares for black, but the drawback is look at that bishop. Would love to be on d6, wouldn't it, or c7 or something. So this is the bane of his existence throughout the game. And look at white's beautiful bishop. Capablanca's great bishop, right? Okay, it's looking at the black pawns biting on granite, you might say, but that's a target. Sometimes you could play like g4. There are lines like that. He's going to play c5, opens up this way. Sure, he can't go anywhere yet, but just look at the relative power of the bishops. Okay, let me know if you guys have any questions as we go. But does that make sense so far? Comfortable position, connected rooks, we're both castled. By the way, I mean, he has moved an F pawn. Technically, moving the F pawn weakens your king, right? Theoretically. So it's a little something there. For example, let's say a rook gets into the 7th rank. He hits G7. Let's say he gets on the diagonal, he hits the king, F7, right? So F5 is theoretically a weak move. We may not see it exploited, but it's there. Bishop's terrible, right? And white's fully developed. Black still needs to move the knight and the bishop to match white's development. Black needs to connect the rooks. Okay, so G6, more pawns on light squares, not good. Rook B1, the mysterious rook move, but he's going to play on the queen side. His pawns are aiming that way. Okay, let's get a good knight in there. Challenge it. Let's support it so we can take back and gain a space advantage. Like, well, you didn't take and fill. I call it filling in the cavity. That's the hole. You didn't fill in the cavity. That's a hole right there, right? No pawn can attack. You didn't fill it in. Well, now I have a knight. You're not really going to fill it in. You're not going to make me fill it in with a pawn. I get a knight there. I'd rather have a knight. Definitely not taking your bishop. No way. I don't care about that bishop. That's a tall pawn. Okay, so you squeeze him, swinging around, come in. Very nice move. Knight retreat. I love that move. Very sophisticated. Because he's like, look, my knight's better than yours. I can go back later. Still, I'm on my 3rd rank. You're on your 2nd rank. Like
You've also got G5.
you can hop into G5, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You have that available, right? Hitting, hey, there's E6, right? So you have a lot of prospects here, flexibility. But hey, I mean, he'll come back later. He can come back whenever he
Hmm.
wants, right? Once the knight moves. So in other words, this is our attacking knight. We have an attacking knight. They have a defending knight. Attacking bishop, nothing bishop, right? Worse than I call it. I think of it like worse than a pawn because if it were a pawn, it can push. If it's here, it's just totally confined. Okay, so rook goes over, hopeless position. Now keep in mind he went b4, so c5 was not possible. It's actually an important theme for both sides. If you're playing a queen's gambit with black, usually you want to be able to play c5. Like a queen's gambit accepted, for example, black takes, then quickly gets in c5. You get an e5, fine, obviously not now, but black needs to get a break in. Can't get a break. This is a good example of how bad things are, right? And now, so again, he had two pawns there covering c5. So c5 wasn't possible. He just win the pawn. Now it's physically impossible. Even if he had a sack,
Mm.
you just can't even do it. It's impossible physically, right? Mechanically. So knight goes to f6. Now he wants to play b5, but it's very, again, very sophisticated game. This Capablanca for you, right? He does not play b5 because then after the capture, oh no, he'd have to trade bishops. We're not going to give him any mercy, right? We're not going to trade. We're not going to let him trade because you see, if you take even yeah with the pawn, the bishop can take. It's not the greatest thing for black pawn structure wise, but hey, it's a huge, lifting a big burden for him to trade off bishops. Well, he does that. That's nothing. Just go back. Notice the flexibility of the queen. I'm just going to blitz through this. I don't think I did in English, just in Spanish, but I'll double check on that. But you can see videos, I think, with the full game analyzed. But we're just going to blitz through because I've looked at it quite a bit, and so I'm going to tell you the key points. So lateral swings, right? Space advantage. You guys see this is like
Yeah.
superior bishop, pretty much superior knight, especially if he comes in later. But again, don't come in. That's when we're back. We don't want to fill it with the pawn. We want to have a knight available. And besides, we have a space advantage. Why are we going to trade down? So you can see a space advantage. We have our pawns pushed into their territory, more maneuverability. You can literally count the number of squares if you wanted to. Mathematically, white has more squares available, right? More maneuverability. That's why we have second rank maneuvers across the entire second rank, a lot of the third rank. They have no third rank maneuverability. I mean, I can go here, get kicked. Um, Hardly any, a few squares on the second rank. Yeah, he does have that. 5 squares, but because of the space disadvantage, the bishop's in the way, right? Go to the back rank now that it's covering the back rank, right? So it's just really bad, right? And we're seeing so superior bishop, superior space advantage, superior space, right? So really adding up. I'm curious. Let's see. Computer says plus 1.5 about. You can see it coming over here, right? Oops. So you can see it going up, like you when you watch live games, you see that, right? um, the current analysis. So rook g8. So this is interesting. He makes stray balls kind of scared. He kind of flirts with an idea of attacking his king, but he doesn't really care about it. He knows he's not really going to get a kingside attack, but he squeezes him because ultimately he does want b5. He's going to get it favorably. So I'm going to show you two instances of nice tactical shots based on his superior position now. So h5. Well, it's kind of a shot, I guess you can say, but because he has such a big space advantage, break through. Taking it's nothing because you could just bring your queen in and take, and notice that would actually lead to an even worse position for black. So keep in mind, an interesting thing is it's like a positive feedback loop. So you have a superior
Mhm.
position, you get a tactic, you just cough up your H pawn. It's a pseudo sacrifice because you get it back with your queen or your rook. But then when you get that, you get to invade. You're hitting all these squares. You might break through, and just fundamentally look at the H pawn. It's a target on a back. It's a backward pawn on a half open file. Maybe get the king out of the way. I don't know. We'll see about that. But obviously, so he's not going to take. It makes things worse, and he splits the pawn. So again, fundamentally, weaknesses, blocking the bishop, target on h7, isolated pawn. We can shove our pawn, and then bring in, as you said, Dave. We can bring in the knight to g5, e5. So many advantages, right? So
Right.
so essentially, that's by virtue of the superior position. We do a tactic. They take, we get a superior, even better position. Superiority increases, leading to probably more tactics. And so you see, it's gonna keep going from there, right? Feedback loop. So rook h2, it's a what do they call it? Virtuous circle, right? Queen c7, queen c3. Okay, again, just little maneuvers. And keep in mind, he does train his sights on the queen side and on the king. You're gonna see some play on the diagonals actually.
Mm.
Look like it, but you'll see it. You'll see how it works. So again, he's flirting with this king side stuff, but he's not going to take. He's not going to trade rooks. Oh yeah, what I was going to say about this, the squares available. So think of it like, like in the 60s, didn't like people try to squeeze into beetles, like see how many people can squeeze into a beetle?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like he's in a beetle, although it's not as cool as a beetle, but it's like, but space wise, right? Not space versus like, what do they call the ones like with the piece on it, like the bigger buses?
Oh, the VW bus or whatever.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
funny. I actually saw a really cool one the other day driving on this historic
Uh,
road, right? It's like, whoa, that's a throwback. It's the only one I've seen. Yeah, like pristine condition. Yeah, so there you might hold like 10 people a little easier, but in the Beetle, I don't know, that'll be tight. So it's like being in a small room. Like I'll get pretty claustrophobic in there, right?
mm,
But here we have like, a 3-story place and we can have a party with like 50 people and be all right. So
yeah.
yeah, he's gonna try to have a party over here for his pieces. So Queen A3 and then B5. Okay, so he's finally got his breakthrough, but it's based on tactics. See, he's been looking for this all along. Like I said, he didn't really care that much. He wasn't going to catch
Ah,
the king. But notice that now, try to see if you can find. I'm going to pause it for a second. Try to see if you can realize like why after H6 check. Try to calculate it from here even, because you have to look ahead. You'd have to know it works. Because again, if it doesn't work, let's just give an example. If you were to take, so let's say black takes, white takes, black take. Oops, it doesn't do that. Black takes. Sure, it doesn't look great for black's pawn structure. You'll be able to target the B pawn and stuff later. But hey, he got rid of that bishop. That's a huge alleviation of that burden for black, right? Again, white's probably better, but I bet you it's not 1.5 anymore. Let's see. Oh, never mind. It's 2.5. I still really like this position. Oh, yeah, because you're still going to get stuff similar to the game. But generally speaking, like yeah, I guess it's still bad, but it seems at least positionally to alleviate his burden. But because he's so strong, and he has more stuff coming. But just fundamentally, he wants to trade the bishop. So he's like, well, I'm not going to give you the chance to do that. So he plays, as you see, he plays H6 and B5. He doesn't. I don't think it makes a huge difference in the move order, but I'll take. I believe Capablanca if he does B5 first. That's the way to go. And he's
right.
okay. How is my opponent going to capture? He does take once, but again, we're not going to take back. So calculate. I'll pause the video here. I'll pause the recording and think about what happens after H6. Why this move's justified. Okay. So
H
Dave, you
takes
mentioned
G.
before we resumed, you mentioned the A file opening, absolutely, and also seventh ring. When you come in, you go to eighth or seventh. You said when the king comes here. Okay, Matt, what do you think?
Well, if you do H takes G, and then if he takes back with F takes G, you can push your F pawn with a tactic and then get his bishop. Because once you push that F pawn, it's checked with by the queen.
Wait, F pawn or which pawn are you talking about? You're talking about C pawn, you mean?
Sorry, I'm on the wrong side of the board.
Yeah. Sometimes that
H.
happens. Right.
A takes
If you had
B,
black, right? If you
C
had black.
takes B, push C6, and that C6 is discovered check by the queen,
Oh,
and then
Yes,
the bishop falls.
exactly. So,
oh, beautiful.
Dave, you had the right. Your idea is kind of more positional, right? They have that idea. Now it can become tactical, but that's what I'm saying, right? So there's a new positional idea. And so we have the seventh rank, the eighth rank that we can invade on positional idea by virtue of the tactics. Isaiah, we're talking about the tactics from
Okay.
H6. So the idea is that you want to play H6 check. First he goes B5. He's been wanting to go B5, but he waited on it because he didn't want to trade bishops, right? So he's able to get away with this positional concept of breaking. Again, the idea is to gain space and break through with one, two without the drawback of trading bishops, right? So it's really smart. And yeah, he was the chess genius, the human chess machine, they said. What do they call it?
Couple
The mechanical Turk, right? Besides the mechanical Turk. So H6 check. Oh, by the way, just a quick note on that. You gotta love it. How Amazon and their like M Turk program, where they like basically try to make us mechanical Turks, and
hmm
they pay you like a few cents to answer surveys. So they call
hmm
it, so yeah, Bezos called it M Turk. I don't know if it's still around. I tried it once just because I was curious how it, but I had to give him my social security number, which I wasn't comfortable with. H6 check, King F8. And then the idea though is that yeah, when they take it, now you had C6 check, right? So take, he inserts H6. Now, by the way, another positional idea. Currently, he does block the rooks, which is nice. You see what he's done? he lured black's rooks over, which further congests him. Of course, he can move the king, but that wastes some time for black. Meanwhile, you can taking back is no longer possible. Matt, you saw c6, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
beautiful.
c6, beautiful idea. Yeah. So the point is, he can't take back again, furthering our positional gains, which is going to lead to more tactics. King e7. Let's insert that. By the way, there is no rook a8 insertion available because the queen's hanging. Oh wait, you take their queen, you take no, you sack your queen. Pseudo sacrifice. You insert that because you've already picked up a rook, then you get the queen. So that's not possible. That means that they have to bring the queen back, which obstructs the line of the rooks, which means black doesn't get the prospect of challenging you on the A file, which means that white's going to triple up on the A file, okay, and get total domination. So again, like he's shut everything down. You see this, I love, and yeah, you
Jeez.
might be giggling or laughing about the awesomeness of the V for victory. That's what they call it in chessgames.com.
I
It's very memorable, right? Have you guys ever seen this game?
don't think so. No, I don't think so.
I
Yeah,
think I might have.
it's a great one. I think I've shown at least a clip of it before, maybe because Matt's been coming for a while to the classes. Committed student. Yeah, big V, awesome student.
Yeah, I should be committed.
Yeah, you're committed. Yeah, no, I think there was a time, you took a break and then you came back. Yeah, and he's come to the labs where I said he came to the library, great library programs, library I teach at in Southeast. Came out to that before COVID. Took a while for that one to resume. I stuck with a lot of them, yeah. A lot of them came back after COVID. So rook a1, rook c8, queen b4. So we get out of the way of the rook. Boom, invasion. So we'll continue our V a little bit. Got a lopsided V now, right? We got a V with the pawns. Invasion on a7. So the thing is, he gained a huge space advantage, but he did commit to closing it in order to achieve this. So he had to know ahead of time that this would be sufficient. You have to win based on your A file in seventh rank play. But usually what happens is open file control leads to invasion on a rank. So it becomes
Right.
not the rank play. Let's come on over. Now, I think, we talk about Alekhine's gun.
Yeah.
I think Capablanca may have done it first. I would call it Capablanca's canon then. But
Oh,
Alekhine got credit. It's kind of like Nimzovich. He got a lot of credit for ideas that he wrote about. Of course, a lot of those ideas were already around, but he codified them essentially. Right? So king in my system. Okay, king g3, and then we kind of shuffle around a little bit. That's fine. He realizes like he has total domination. I call it like stretching out his queen, yawning, right? Just comfortable. King goes back. It's like, you know what? You have no tricks over here. I'm totally safe. And then says, well, I have total domination, but I need another ingredient. Secret sauce is the knight. Okay, why don't you take a minute here? Where do you guys think the knight should go? Because look at the bishop again. Look at the superior bishop, superior knight, superior rooks, superior pawns. And now it's got to be a huge advantage. Okay, what's it saying? +4.5 as if we're up like a rook. So massive advantage now. Okay. So what do you
I
guys?
would think 95.
Well, the thing about 95 is you're giving them mercy by letting them trade off their bad night for your good night. And you're messing up your cool V, right?
Oh, true. Yeah.
No, yeah, no
Yeah.
need. There's no need.
Yeah. No
It's
need to
like
do that.
earlier, did you see the part where he retreated his knight to F3? Were you there for that or no?
Oh, I don't think I was.
It was cool because black challenged it on D7. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to retreat my knight to F3. It's a strong retreat. It was very strong because it didn't give Treyball the pleasure of trading off his awful knight, right? Didn't let him alleviate his position. So we can see, and because of that, we have the superior knight. Anytime black moves away, we come in. But this knight is just a burden. The bishop's a burden. So imagine if black could trade those off, they might hold the position, right? Because the minor pieces are like the secret sauce. You can't just win probably with these guys. Because if you come in, you just take it, right? Because you'll have two backing up and they'll have three on it. They would actually just get two rooks for the queen, which is 10 for 9. And then black would be the one doing well, right? They'd be coming on the A file. So we don't want to do that. We're not going to, one of my students asked me that, well, why don't we come in? No, don't alleviate their burden either by trading two rooks for the queen. So these aren't really tactics. Those are just like helping your opponent. That's not really a tactic. Now, if we trap the
So,
queen, yes, but we're not, if they move, here's the problem actually. Because of the prospect of rook A8, black can't come off there. See, they have to stay on the back rank. Like I said, when you come in, you got two defenders. they've got 3 attackers on it. But if they move a rook up, then you can come in, and then they're toast because the queen can't go away because your space advantage is squeezing everything, right? You can see, like I talked about mathematically, look at the number of moves.
Yeah.
Look at the number of moves available to black. You can
Yeah.
count, you get the idea. It's probably like 4 times or 5 times more for white, if maybe more, right? White has tons of moves. Black has like hardly any moves. Like even if it's available, it's bad. Right? So it's yeah. There's like 1 knight move, 1 king move. It's 2 king moves. It's awful, right? No pawn moves.
Yeah.
So yeah, total. We
So
call that a bind or a vice, right? So he uses his knight, but Isaiah,
so is it
not
a
knight
is it
e5.
A5? You're trying to get to A5, right?
That's your objective, right? So think more in terms of
Okay. Yeah.
dream positions a5, crash through. So we just go to d2. That's how we actually achieve that. Now, sometimes you have cool examples where it's like, hey, I want to get to a5, but I don't have a direct path. Or like not an obvious path. Then you start seeing cool moves like knight retreats in the corner, stuff like that, right? In this case,
Oh,
it's
cool.
direct, but it's all about the objective. Vision. My vision is I want my knight there, crash through. And again, when he closed things up, he had to see all that, right?
Hmm.
Otherwise, it's just a draw. That's what black wants. Trey ball's like, can I just hold a fortress and then draw? That's why he played so passively. He's like, look, I'm getting outplayed, but if I can just hold on for dear life, I can get a draw against this, the great Capablanca. So it goes knight d8, and now there's a cool shot. This is the second shot, and then there's one final shot. Okay, but
Oh wow.
based on this pressure, like I said, he gains the file, which allows him to gain, to stay on the 7th rank without being challenged, right? So he's going to use the 7th rank pressure. How does he use that? Do you guys see a shot here?
Oh, is it the bishop A3, or what would that be? A6?
Nice one. So this is I love this idea.
Oh yeah.
It's a shot, right? One, it's a shot because when he takes, you get the bishop here.
Yeah.
Wait, you might ask yourself, wait, remember we were working to keep our bishop and not trade off. We worked so hard to get the better bishop. Why are we giving? Because you gain a new positional advantage, right?
Mm.
So a pseudo sacrifice of the bishop. It's a pseudo or temporary sacrifice. Okay, we give it the bishop. We have X right here. You don't actually get anything like right now. You see, you give up your bishop, you get their bishop. But look at the positional concessions. Remember we talked about if he had taken Treyball, if he had taken on h5 and let you a pseudo sacrifice, you take back and split the pawns. Look what happened with the pawns. Well, first of all, you gain access. You're in the 7th. Like Isaiah,
Yeah.
you saw that the 7th rank pressure, right?
Like you said, infiltration.
He gets new
Yeah.
advantage. What's that?
I said, like you said, when the rooks are on the open file, they'll infiltrate on the rank.
Exactly. But we needed to uncork that with the
Yep.
pseudo sacrifice. So again, it doesn't matter. Like the way I view it is it doesn't the board doesn't care what used to be there, right? Kaisa, the god, he doesn't care what used to be there, right? That doesn't matter logically. All that matters is that we have this. So in other words, don't fetishize the bishop, right? It's very easy. It's very easy to do that, right? Or the knight. Oh, look at that amazing, beautiful knight. No, forget about it. Right?
Yeah.
In other words, you can become attached, really, right? Because you've been working with that bishop for like what, 50 moves? 50,
Yeah.
like you've been nurturing this for like 48 moves, right? Improving that bishop and just squashing their bishop. So it's like, wait, I don't want to do that. So you can see that can actually psychologically that can hinder you from even considering such a move. And remember, he had to consider this many moves ago. By the way, on that note, some people that we talked about actually at the beginning, Angela, about how many moves ahead you calculate. So in this case, he had to see it way far ahead, but he didn't have to calculate every move. Like I said about knight a5, he didn't have to calculate exactly. He just knew I'm going to stick my knight on a5. You know I'm going to stick my bishop here because let's quickly go back to the moment when he closed it. I mean, he probably saw this even before that, but especially when you play a move like this, you have to double check, right? That when you're actually committing to h6, that this whole thing's going to work. Because again, he had to see this thing, but he didn't have to calculate everything. Maybe he did, but all he needed to see in his head was the piece placement. See, once you have the piece placement like this, you know that there's so much pressure, and you could imagine the thing is you don't have to calculate everything because you know that there are only so many configurations that black can have with their pieces. So it's kind of like some programming, right? Some algorithm, but it's a shortcut. It's a heuristic, right? So you don't need to calculate everything. Now, once it's in front of you, yeah, you obviously need to calculate bishop a6. It's obvious now, right? You just have to think of it. But again, you don't get fixated. You say, look, again, it's a very important idea, right? I'm going to give away. Someone called it trading imbalances, right? Again, it's one imbalance, better bishop, space advantage. So you're willing to give up the better bishop in order to create a new imbalance, which is superior pawn structure and rook invading on the seventh rank, right? Now, oh, by the way, when he takes here, you guys see another advantage. We split the pawns. You see a new pawn structure advantage for white that wasn't there before.
The pass pawn, the pass B
Exactly.
pawn.
Protected, but nice pawn chain, giving us a protected pass pawn. Not any pass pawn, but it's protected by the C pawn.
Protected. Yep.
Go anyway. So we can just hang
What
out. And a lot of times protected pass pawns can win king and pawn endgames for you, So you can liquidate everything and say, hey, look, I don't have to worry about that guy, right?
Yeah.
did black have to take there though?
Well, if he doesn't take, he collapses here on a
How
B7
does he collapse?
because now you have 3 on it and they only have 2 on it. So you're just gonna take it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
You're gonna break through any, but the thing is when he takes on a6, again, because his pawn structure is split, it's just like this idea earlier with g takes h5. That pawn was as good as gone. Same with this. You can't hold that pawn. There's nothing to hold it. Just move the knight, you take it. And of course, another glorious tactic to finish things based on the superior position, which is essentially the thesis, right? Going with Fischer's thesis and the thesis here to proving that through this game. Rook e7. And now final tactic. Who can see it? Final tactic to force him to resign, essentially, or else it's just done. Again, exploiting the superior pawn structure and superior rook and knight.
Oh, I see it, I think.
Is it the exchange stack?
Right.
Jay, what do you think? You guys see that?
I think rook takes rook. He retakes with the king, and then you've got oh no, you don't have a fork. Never
No,
mind.
similar idea. Now let's blend that with Isaiah's exchange stack comment.
Yeah, the rook takes knight, and then the fork that he mentioned.
Again, it's funny. Every single thing here is not a real sacrifice. It appears to be, meaning it's a pseudo sacrifice.
Oh, right.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
you're giving away a rook for a knight, but you immediately recoup it. See that? And you
Yeah,
get
I see
you
that.
get a massive fork. And then he resigned.
Yeah.
Finally, he's
Finally,
like, no,
brutal.
no, there's no more fortress.
No
There's no
more.
more fortress. And then immediately you invade, and then you're up 2 protected pass pawns. Each one's
Yes.
protected passed, and you're about to win the queen. But even whatever, I mean, just like, what's our easiest way to? I mean, you could even trade. What's the easiest way to win this? There's so many ways. Maybe rook invasion.
Yeah.
Back again, where we can like check him first. You can literally even go here and take that. I mean, it's over. But
It's
yeah,
over.
but funny enough, even if you were to trade queens, that would finish it very quickly. Because then we have the theme of two pawns on the sixth. So if you're that kind of player who just wants to simplify and say, okay, you're done, rook here, and then we can go like this. And then it goes here, and then we can do that. We come down that. Oh, wait, actually, let's do. Oh, wait, well, whatever. We can win so many ways. I mean, you could do this if you want to win the rook, I'm sure there are better ways. You can win any way you want, right? Yeah. Oh no, actually, no, check it out. No, let's do just to show you, insert this move. And then again, you could come there. Oh, you could come there and skewer them. They can't
Yeah.
stop the skewer. That's beautiful. They literally can't stop
That
it.
is.
Yeah, just do it. We like that A7 square too. Just you keep using that as a launch pad, and now they have to take you, or else they lose the rook and you win. Pretty cool, huh?
Very cool.
Yeah, it's an amazing game. And Isaiah, I'll post this eventually on YouTube. Maybe I'll just start with this since we're doing it today. Get it off my computer. Yeah, so you can see or just flip through the game. Just Google Capablanca trade ball. And then okay, now finally Fischer Spassky. So again, imbalances. Well, we could just look at this one from about here. So you can already see some imbalances. Why don't we just break down the imbalances here? Oh, sometimes I like to do this. Let's say we go here. These are all there's a Lee Chess study, just has all the games. I really like chessgames.com because it'll give you a whole breakdown of the match. It's like a Wikipedia article on it, plus it has all the games. People put a lot of work into that website, or they did. It's not really as active anymore. So what I'll do is I'll just make it black on the side. And then yeah, and then we could just fill in the comments. So you guys can just tell me some thoughts about the imbalances and I'll jot them down. So break down the imbalances. We'll see why black has a superior position. And yeah, pretty much even from here, you could think about how black can improve that. Okay, so what do you guys think so far? At least there are a couple of main imbalances. What would you guys say? Differences between white and black's position. And Fischer, of course, yeah, you see that. Fischer has black. Round 5. This is where he ties the match. So just break it down. What difference do you guys see? What is one person? What does black have that white doesn't have, and vice versa?
Black has a knight. White has the bishop pair.
That's fundamental, yeah. So we have basically bishop and knight versus 2 bishop. Okay, well, we could break that down a little bit. What do you observe about that imbalance? Who do you think it favors now? Or you don't have to even make a judgment call, but any more details on that imbalance? What do you guys say?
Well, the center's basically closed right now, which favors probably the knight having a knight.
Right. So you can see that, right, that feeds into the bishop as well. So
right, the bishop's more locked up.
Right. So now the knight needs to find a square, but look, well, now it's going to feed a little bit more into the pawn structure. But basically that means a superior knight, speaking of superior position. So we should have a better knight, especially versus we're playing against that light square bishop again. I'll say LSB, light square bishop, or D3. Now again, the dark square bishop is shut down by our own pawns. A bad bishop is defined by the bishop, essentially the bishop being locked in by its own pawns, because there are really no prospects here for it to free itself from those pawns. And then I'll get into the other thing. You guys mentioned it. What do you notice about white's pawn structure? I mean, black too, but probably more so the problem for white. So what do you guys observe about white's pawns, besides the fact that they're locked, which is a great option?
They're double though, and they're also, I feel like they're really trapping in the light square bishop.
Right. So 1, they block it, and 2, they're weak. Pretty bad, right? So in other words, black has won the opening struggle. They're well into the middle game now. They haven't castled yet, but we're almost done with our development. We're both going to castle. We'll pretend like we're Fischer, right? We can live vicariously through Fischer in 1972 and just see, how amazing this position is, right? So you can sense that when you have a position like this, okay, great. Now I'm modeling Fischer's play, right? And you could literally do stuff like this, right? Maybe not as great as Fischer, but no, you can have amazing games, especially when you play like, let's say you're playing like a 12, 1500. They won't know what, you can totally outplay them, right? And then you get better and better and you do the same thing to 1800s and stuff using these ideas.
I will outplay Fischer.
Or you can do that. Well, yeah.
No.
Like, you can
and we'll say we knew you win,
right? Your dreams, I guess. But hey, you never know. You can outplay the Fischer bot maybe if it has if it moves too quickly.
There you go.
Okay, or if you get some takebacks, who knows? But yeah, maybe a 2500 level bot, right? You can use these ideas. And then the other thing is, so the E4 pawn and the C pawns are, well, I'll say this, they're fixed. See, so it's part of the closed position that they're fixed, but because they're fixed and targets, I'd say.
Yeah.
So for example, the fact that the knight looks at this pawn, which is fixed in place, means that the bad bishop is stuck on it. So for example, we know that a bad bishop can move outside the pawn chain and be at least a better bishop than it used to be. That's the remedy, right? So it's something like this, right? It's like not as bad. At least it has a diagonal. It might come into c6 or something, right? But it can't really do that because it's going to abandon the e pawn. Hey, look, we can also go bishop a6 and target the c pawn. Sometimes we can even go knight e8 to d6. If you're on d6, you're looking at both pawns simultaneously, and you're blockading the d pawn. Very nice common idea. Yeah, so you see all these advantages, right? All again, advantages rack up, giving black superior positional edge, right? We keep building our positional advantage, and therefore we have superior tactics flowing from a superior position. I'll show you a couple other cool things that happen now, and then as we go, maybe note down one or two more imbalances. Okay, so castles. We have an open F file, so that really doesn't favor anyone. We can't really call it imbalance until somebody, let's say, dominates it like Capablanca did with the A file. Now this is interesting. So he goes for A4. Now, just like we talked about giving up the bishop for the good bishop for the bad one, here we're giving, I think Fischer actually said give squares to get squares, or a weak pawn, and therefore a weak pawn on b6. You say, wait, that looks so anti-positional. The b6 pawns, what do we call that? What kind of pawn is that?
Backward.
Backward pawn, right? Now the a4 pawn, though, is a target as well. Let's say we go here, maybe queen here, you can target it with your bishop. Yeah, so, and actually, interestingly, you can probably guard the B pawn maybe even easier than he can guard his A pawn. And the other thing, think about it. When you look at it, when you get deeper and deeper in your analysis, he's going to go A5 and take it, which means you're going to have a backward B pawn, right? So think about
So
it.
either way, you're going to have a backward B pawn.
Right. So while we have a backward B pawn, we may as well saddle him with a weak pawn as well, especially because we're going to lock pawns and thereby making it so his bishop is even worse and doesn't even have the prospect of
Right.
debate for, even if he could, right? Because of the E4 pawn being under pressure. Pretty cool, right? So everything just it fits together like a puzzle, like a jigsaw puzzle, right? When you understand, when you decode it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, to the untrained eye, I mean, to my eye as well, I'm like, wait, why are you playing A5? But I either saw some analysis on it or I just figured it out. I think I may have seen like maybe Kasparov covered it in My Great Predecessors or something. By the way, I recommend that book. You learn a lot about the history as well. I think it's like a 2-volume series, My Great Predecessors. They're really good analysis and good history. So we
Five
have
volumes.
what's that?
5 volumes.
Oh, is it 5?
Yeah, Fischer and Karpov each get their own volumes to themselves.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Bishop D7. Well, yeah, it makes sense because he had so much. One, he had such an involved relationship with Karpov. They had all these matches and everything. And two, Karpov took the title after Fischer abandoned it. And then obviously Fischer was just arguably the best ever, among the best ever. Well, Fischer was the most dominant player ever. I mean, won the US championship 11-0, only person to ever do that. And then obviously on the global stage, in the run up to play Spassky, he beat guys like 6-0. You know, not Korchnoi, Taimanov. We did a video on that, right? We had a video up there on that. Taimanov and Larson beat him with 6-0, just total dominant. And then he beat Petrosian by a big margin as well. What's that?
I just said Larson the same time you did.
Yeah, Larson 6-0. And then again, like these guys are some of the best there. So, oh, okay. Angela had to head off at 1. Cool. Thanks, Angela. All right. So we got Bishop D7. Rook B2. Again, he's trying to double, so he like prophylactically just covers. Doubles up. Again, we can't claim it's an advantage for anyone. I mean, white's looking at it more than black, I guess, because the knight's in the way, but we can easily meet him here. And now he just has to show some sophisticated. Okay, he moves away for now. We're going to show some sophisticated play to turn these imbalances into advantages. We can't quite say we have an advantage. I think we could say we do have an advantage over the bishop for sure. I think we can say that. If nothing else, even our bishop over there, or our knight over there. Maybe we could say these two if we want to compare the knight versus dark squared bishop. And then, you know, apples to apples, like light squared for light squared. Ours is clearly better than theirs. Our structure, well, we have doubled pawns, but we can look what we're going to do. We're going to utilize the front pawn as the attacker and the back pawn, the rear pawn as the defender. It's a cool idea. I like that, using that. So you can do that yourself. And or sometimes I'll call this like the cocoon for the king. Whenever they have like this, you have a nice little cocoon on the second story. You can move your king up. Pretty common idea. Fianchettos, fianchetto come up that way.
Mm-hmm.
So G5, Bishop D2. There you go. There's that dual attack on A4. He has to defend with 2. So again, attackers versus defenders. We're tying them down. Now, interestingly, you might remember I said about the or connecting the rooks and making it so we can move the knight. Now we can, but this is it. This is where he really turns it into an advantage. Again, transforming imbalances into advantages through deeper understanding, outplaying him. queen g6. So he's not just doing it to go to queen e8. It's going to g6, hitting e4 again. Now, he's not going to take here because he's not going to get pinned, right? But he's there. He's on that pawn. Again, attackers versus defenders. Attacking. And notice also, remember we said the double pawns here, the backward, look at Fischer's structure. If you to the untrained eye, again, like fun, no, if we're going to break it down, is a backward B pawn, isolated E pawn, and double G pawns. But it's like whose weaknesses are accessible or attackable? White's are. This one, and I mean theoretically you could go bishop a6 and hit that one. And like I said, especially no, very concretely in the future, you could shift here once you don't lose your rook, right? Say you trade rooks or something, and you get there and hit, so you can maybe win the C pawn too. So basically, but this is where we're going to have the tactics. So we don't have to look at this so statically, like, oh, well, I'm just going to pile up on it and win it. No, you're not, because he sees where you're attacking, he's defending it. But you do have a like across the board an attack, and then something's got to give. But it's going to give via forcing moves in the form of tactics, right? So queen d3. Interestingly, he doesn't see any other way to progress, so he's got to trade rooks. But again, we're boiling it down to the essential advantages. See, like I said, this was neutral. If anything, it was good for white, because whites were in front of the knight. The knight was in the way. So if anything, it was good for white, right? He's not going anywhere with it. But okay, let's trade this off. And rather than going to d6, like I mentioned, it's not bad there. He's actually going into f4. So of course, he would love to, again, if he gets to trade off the light squared bishop for this, it's probably just a draw. Funny enough, if you look at round 3, we have the exact same imbalance, queen and opposite colored bishops, and he wins that game as well. Beautiful. His first win, round 3, draw, round 5, win, he ties it up. And then round 6, he takes the lead, which is the famous one in Pawn Sacrifice, where apparently Spassky stood up and applauded him. So definitely look at round 6 as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, apparently. It wasn't on camera because that's why Fischer abandoned round 2 because he didn't like the cameras and everything. So Spassky was a gentleman about it. He says, okay, we can take away the cameras. If you guys have seen Pawn Sacrifice?
Yes, that's the best movie ever.
Well, yeah, Searching for Bobby Fischer is a great one. Yeah,
no. Pawn Sacrifice is better.
Fair enough. If you like that one better, okay, we can agree to disagree. No, but that's a good one. I mean, it's a good one. The psychological elements are very good. The Cold War, the prominence of the Cold War, and
Yeah, and star actors, Tobey Maguire and even Boris Spassky is star actor.
I thought it's interesting. I thought at first, I'm like, how is Tobey Maguire going to pull it off? Because he doesn't have a very long face, right? Because Fischer had a very more of a long, taller with a long face, but he pulled it off somehow. He looked a little bit. The acting was obviously brilliant. Didn't look quite like him, but
Yeah, I've seen it like 10 times.
oh, really?
What?
It's a great movie. So
That's great. I've never seen it. I'm
there are a
gonna
lot of
watch
chess.
it.
I mean, there are a lot of great chess movies out there. There's a cool one that I think a lot of people don't know about. Of course, there's Queen of Katwe, which is a Disney movie, and then there's
Saw that too.
Uganda. Yeah, it's interesting. Other than The Lion King, it's pretty much the only movie by Disney that covers Africa. And then you have another country, New Zealand. This Aboriginal guy from New Zealand is Dark Horse. Have you guys heard of Dark
Oh
Horse?
wow.
That's the one that's not that well. Yeah, I somehow came across it on Amazon. I'm not sure if it's there anymore. You can find it on YouTube. I don't know, I have to pay for it.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen
But
it.
yeah, look up Dark Horse. It's pretty cool. But usually, and then Life of a King. Just an aside, Life of a King is a great one. That's based
Oh,
on.
I see the sack. I see the, if you call it a pseudo sack, now I see it.
Oh, my bad. I just played it.
Oh, okay, yeah. Finally.
As I was
Wait,
talking
what?
about it, I played it. But why? Okay, let's talk about that's fine. So we'll talk about why it works. So knight goes into f4, hits the queen, hits the g2 pawn. So it's interesting though. So again, he's not statically just looking at those pawns. That wouldn't be enough. It's like, okay, it's kind of like if you know your opponent's trying to go after your king and that's all they've got. You're like, all right, I'm sticking my knight on f1. I'm gonna fianchetto my bishop and got my rook laterally, my queen's nearby. You know what I mean? So you can't just show. It's kind of like in the last game how Capablanca swung between two sides of the board. That's exactly what he's doing. All of it, right? Got the E pawn under pressure. The G pawn's going to be hit. The knight's hitting all those white squares from the dark square on f4, and he's hitting white squares on the queen side. Like I said, he can even go here. So he's just dominating the whole board, and that ultimately is what. See, now we have this is the pinnacle of our position advantage. Look at the knight on f4.
But I'm confused with White's next move. Why doesn't he go queen f1?
Well, yeah. Well, actually, there's a reason. He might be lost no matter what. But there, yeah, Queen C2 was probably a blunder, which fell victim to this beautiful move. And
That
then,
is beautiful. Yeah.
but that's the thing. When you have such a superior position, it becomes very difficult to defend. So actually, Queen F1 fails. What is that? I'm sure there's somewhere else to go. I don't know. Maybe Queen E3. But if you go a Queen F1, I think fails to what move? Pretty direct.
Queen f1 fails.
Did someone say something?
Oh no, I'm sorry. I don't see it.
Imagine
It's like,
she's on F1.
Queen
Oh wait.
takes E4. Queen takes E4.
Oh no, at least I see that move. But
no, and then we
no,
yeah we
I
play
see the
g3.
move, but it might fail tactically because of G3. You're saying G3.
Yeah, yeah, we're playing g3 next.
Yeah, maybe he might have to move his king then. Let's see. Yeah, but this was a blunder under pressure, you know. Maybe he's hoping to move his bishop and free up his bishop here. Because the queen is effectively overloaded. That's what's going on. And then by having the shot, then we take E4. That's why I had that in mind. But yeah, my mouse needs batteries. Okay, here. Could not play a bullet game with this. Use the touch screen. So yeah, let's see. I'm curious actually. Well, there is bishop H3. It just barely works because they have queen F2 to keep it in. There's a check. I don't know if that's enough. I mean, maybe you'd have to sack a piece now. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Bishop H3, queen F2. Yeah, so probably not working yet.
What about knight D3 there?
Well, I mean, you can actually, funny enough, you actually don't. No, you can't move your knight. But I mean, if you really want to save your knight,
Yeah, nice.
Oh, right, you can't.
yeah, almost a mate, right? You see it? Just for entertainment's sake. You don't lose your knight. Well, he might get a
Right.
trap though. He might get trapped.
Yeah, I
But
think it's trapped.
he currently survives. He's surviving for at least a move, but then the bishop will probably, I don't know. He probably gets lost. He probably gets lost after this. But it's kind of interesting. That you mentioned that. But yeah, so I would, but at least you gotta, I don't know if you mentioned it, but at least hey, the e pawn hangs, because I'm thinking of it from this perspective that when it hangs, it's lost.
This was a mate threat.
Well, that was actually a bishop sack. So the bishop sack is good, not the knight sack.
Mm.
And now it's mate threat, and it's over because he can't hold on to. So you see a bunch of overloading going on, and now the queen.
Wow, I love how mate is in two different ways. Queen takes bishop is mate, and queen takes g2 is mate.
Yeah, and it's cool because he only has 3 pieces on the board.
Yeah,
he only has 3 attackers, and yet it's over because of.
well, after I sacked the bishop, you only had 2.
It's because of A5. What's that? It's not. No, I'm not going to say he calculated this when he played A5 like 15 moves ago, but the fact that it was weak was important. The weaknesses led to the superior position, which led to the tactics. So does that make sense? Do you buy into the thesis then that, at least in many cases, tactics flow from a superior position?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty
Did
cool.
Spassky resign at this point, or how did
when he did the shot? Yeah, he resigned when he did the shot. It's totally lost because now, again, that's focusing on E4. Because even if the queen defends E4, you just snatch the bishop. Now it's not a mate. It's not a mate anymore, but he's up 2 pawns and it's hopeless. But he still threatens E4, G2. So I don't even know if there's a defense here. Like queen F3 drops the bishop. It has to be, I don't know, queen here. It's bad, right? It's bad. Like some knight or something. But he's up 2 pawns. You got to watch out for the D pawn. But yeah, you can take another. I mean, if you really wanted to, you can blockade it. But yeah, you're probably not going to mess around with that. I'm curious, actually, I'm curious what the best move is right here. It's giving him a -5. So yeah, queen D2 is the best move. Yeah, funny enough, it actually is. Oh, just shove your A pawn. You can just shove your A pawn. Well, because he's tied down. Well, obviously white can try this. Oh, then you just blockade with your king. It doesn't matter. He can't come and harass your king because you can't go anywhere with the queen. That's easier because I was like, oh, maybe the knight has to. No, the knight doesn't have to go back. Don't give in to him. Just go like that, and then it's game over. Check. Are we coming in? Check. Block. We could even trade queens and win, but we can liquidate. Yeah, you can liquidate if you feel like it, but no need. Just push the pawn, game over. Yeah, like here now, once she really presses and then he forces the issue, well, you're about to get a queen. That's amazing, huh? So it's
Yeah,
very
it's cool.
interesting because, like I talked about, it's not all about just direct king side attacks. It's anything but, right? It's focusing on the A pawn, the E pawn, sometimes the C pawn, superior bishop. But even with two pieces in the end, he's able to essentially mate. I wonder whether it is a forced mate. Yeah, it's a mate in six, actually. It's giving this move. Let's say he does something else, like king out, jack, jack. Oh, that's got to be a mate very soon. Jack. Oh, very nice mate. Knight C1 mate. So you just
Oh,
gotta look
nice.
around a little bit. I mean, you could probably mess around with him and chase him into your territory. Um, like you could probably go here. That's like a mate in five. Where's the mate? Oh, is it knight mate again? Beautiful. Here, here. I kind of like this. Yeah, back to I like coming back to F4 again. Just like we kept coming back to haunt him on that A2 square in the last game, right? Beautiful. Yeah, these motifs, right? So it's just interesting. I mean, it's a highly complex game, but again, if you just have it broken down, then you can get it, right? Just like again, like I said, just like if you study the Immortal game, very complex, but when you break it down, it's like, okay, well, there's a space advantage. There's a huge development lead, things like that. Again, just like with the Opera Box game, it's all about the development lead. Oh, and file control and diagonal control. Different imbalances. We talk about file control. In that case, the diagonal control is everything combined, and here the diagonals are shut down. And if anything, even though we are the one with only one bishop, the diagonal was essential. Hitting them actually on two diagonals combined with weak pawns at the end of them. So, you guys have any final questions or thoughts here?
So basically, I played better than Spassky because I saw Queen F1.
Um, you found an improvement. Yeah, let's see. Well, I don't know. Let's just see may as well see what we did our own analysis. I'm curious. Well, no, like I said, I think you just move your king, but then he is a better defense. Well, you would have had to find all of Spassky's the other moves that were actually decent for Spassky, or find better moves that were, yeah, superior moves than his mistakes. Um, yeah, it's saying, funny enough, it is saying king to the center. It doesn't really matter because there's no
That
break.
makes sense too.
Yeah, there's no break. You want your king in the center. Like, what if you trade queens? You want him there.
Yeah, and
So it's
For
just
the D
giving,
pawn
what's that?
and to block the D pawn eventually.
Yeah, use the king to blockade it. Just
Yeah,
for fun.
blockade.
Yeah, just for fun. Yeah, it's only giving black like 0.6. So yeah, 0.7 now. Yeah, he could have survived. Maybe did he have anything better? Yeah, it was all fine. But the point is he could have still, hung in there for a little bit. So
Hmm.
cool, cool. I'll stop the recording then. Nice job, guys. Good analysis. You can take a
Good
look at it more on your own at these games.